welcome to another edition of the Sunday Soul Podcast, the Black Edition. And I have a very, very special guest with us today. I have Shiraz with me, and this powerful man is the founder and creator of Energetic Magic. And we're going to have a amazing discussion today about changing and rewriting your reality. Thank you so much for being here, Shiraz. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me on. I know this is going to be some fun.
Oh my gosh, yes. This is my thing.
Guys, the song comes on, that's my jam.
It is my thing. Okay. I've had to rewrite my reality about 40 times, and I'll probably rewrite it again 40 more.
If you're doing things right, you're going to keep rewriting the reality. Because you create one that's amazing, but you go, hey, I could do better.
Yes. Yes, exactly. So we talk a lot about that here on this podcast and on YouTube and on everywhere. I'm so big about being the co-creator of your life, being the creator, an active participant in the quantum creation and the quantum shifts and realms and all of that. So how did you get to this? Because they all know my backstory, but how did you get to where you are right now in your walk and in your reality?
Okay. Just before I get into that, just if people are watching me, every now and then I'm going to like shift and look down. That's a dog hitting me in the leg saying, I want to play right now during this conversation. I know we just came in from a walk, so this wouldn't happen, but it's happening.
Well, they're used to, those that watch the video are used to my cat Gemini jumping up on the table and stretching in front of the camera. So they are used to our pets being around, or should I say our partners being around and in our space. So that's okay, guys. If he tosses something, he's just tossing the ball. It's all right. So Shiraz, how did we get here? How did we
get here?
Yeah.
We got here, actually, this journey, it was there since I was a little kid, but it really ramped up in a big way when I was 22 years old, because I had gotten into university and I was doing molecular genetics because I figured I'm going to be a geneticist. I'm going to be a doctor like my father and a bunch of my uncles. This is the family thing. Yeah. And I was in the best shape of my life. I was actually a bodybuilder. I was just jacked. And I'm just like, this is it. This is my life. It's going to be amazing. And the world is my oyster.
Yeah.
And then the world did not give me pearls. It gave me arthritis.
Oh.
Yeah. And it's not that, oh, my shoulders really hurt, arthritis. It was pain in every single joint in my body. Like every joint. There were nights where I sipped dinner through a straw because my jaw wouldn't move because it was so swollen.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So that became my existence. And I'd spend days, sometimes up to a week in bed, in pain, not being able to move. And this continued for almost 20 years. And it would go into remission for a while, giving me hope that this is going to come out of it, but then we just come full blown. But I did learn to build a tolerance for pain, so much so that I could go back and finish my schooling. I took a different course then, and then I went to work, and people would think, oh, he's just the guy that walks a little funny, not realizing I'm in an intense pain, but not showing it. Right. And that's the thing I found out with arthritics, that when you're trying to do something, you're using anywhere between 2 to 10 times as much effort to do what everyone else is doing. And people are like, why are you always tired? Why can't you keep up? Right. As you're walking so slowly anyways, you can't possibly be tired. I'm
right.
I'm spending 10 times the energy you are.
Wow.
So yeah, so it was a frustrating time. Plus you're getting the body's deteriorating, the deformation of the joints. And I tried all sorts of things to get out of it. So diet, medicine, supplements, acupuncture, like we just kept trying. And the funny thing is it would start to work. And I'm like, oh my God, it's going to work. And then it would just stop. And I couldn't figure out what was going on, why this was happening, and why nothing seemed to solve the problem. The thing I didn't realize at the time was it wasn't a problem, it was a solution. Right? And So that awareness came up when I was talking to my dad, and I said, look, we've tried all sorts of things. This is something you've heard of that we haven't done. And he goes, well, there is a program in India. Hush. and they've had success with multiple illnesses. And that caught my attention because you usually go to a cancer clinic or a diabetes clinic, an arthritis place. Like, that's it. And they're like, he's like, no, all illnesses.
Wow.
What is this place?
Right.
Why isn't everyone going to this place?
Right. Sign me up.
So I got on a plane and I went over to India to get into this program. Yeah. And it's called combined therapy. And of course it's in India. So I'm thinking energy work, laying of hands. That's basically, I'm going to come back. The guy's going to do something and I'm done. And I sit down with this guy and all he does is talk to me for 2 weeks. Like a psychiatrist, except he's not acting like a psychiatrist trying to analyze what did you feel or whatever. He just give me information. And I'm like, wow, okay. And at the end of the 2 weeks, he says, okay, Shiraz, here's the issue. You believe you're responsible for everyone in your life. And I said, no, I don't. That's kind of crazy. And he said, I know you don't think that consciously, but from everything you've told me, your whole history, you've created a belief that you're responsible for everyone in your life. And it started off when I was like 8 years old, and I got to take care of these people, and I could see these people having trouble, so I better take care of them. And I just kept adding people. And eventually that just became my normal.
Right.
And by the time I was 22, I was adding so many people in that it just hit that overwhelm point. There's just too many people now. And so my body decided, well, I need a way out of this. So if I'm lying in bed in pain, I don't have to be responsible for anyone, and I don't have to feel guilty about it. And no one can judge me for not being responsible like I think they're all doing if I'm not being responsible. Now they can't. So it was the solution to this problem I didn't even realize I had. Right? And it was just when he told me that, and it just hit me. I'm like, oh my God, right? That's crazy. And why am I not consciously aware? Like, why am I thinking, oh my God, I'm so responsible for everyone? But that's what happens with most people. You don't realize it's just under the surface. And the problem is actually the solution that's protecting you from looking at it. Because I'm just trying to fix the arthritis. I'm not trying to fix the problem. Right. So then I said, but wait a sec. If what you're saying is true, then all I have to do is say, I'm not going to be responsible for anyone but me. And then I shouldn't have arthritis. And he goes, if you actually mean it deep down, that you're not responsible for anyone but you, and you don't need the arthritis. So I said, okay, I'm not going to be responsible for anyone but me. I woke up the next morning, no pain, no inflammation, more mobility, and I could even breathe deeper. And I'm like freaking out.
Wow.
What the hell just happened? Right? Why am I able to move? Like, you can't cure something this much overnight. That's impossible, except here I am.
Wow.
So the damage was still there. And I've been working to fix the damage over the years. And that's been a process, but a slow process, because that's the other thing I found. Sometimes there's a miracle and sometimes there's a process, and you have to be willing to go through both, because most people are just looking for miracles.
Yes.
So
yes.
That's it. But yeah, now I've got more flexibility than I've had in years. I feel amazing. The arthritis does come up every now and then, but now I know it's a warning that some belief is coming up, and that's my body's system of saying you're screwing something up. And now I can look at it and go, oh, that's what it is. And as soon as I figure out what it is, the arthritis just goes away again almost instantly. But for the most part, I'm arthritis free because I don't have the problem anymore. So I don't need the solution.
So we apply that, like we'll talk about like for energy healers, right? We talk about shadow work and all of these things and releasing this energy that's no longer serving you. And a lot of times people look at that as, oh, well, I have to get rid of this romantic partner, or I have to stop having this friend in my life, or something along that line. But really, we create these defense mechanisms.
Yep.
And the defense mechanism is the energy that's no longer serving you,
Mhm.
once you do that shadow work underneath, we don't ever truly get rid of it, right? But we teach this transmutation of energy, and I teach about reintegration, kind of lift your house up like I live in a raised ranch because across the street is a floodplain. So this house is lifted up on its foundation 3 feet higher than a
Mhm.
normal house would be above the plane.
Mhm.
So the foundation's still there, right? But we raise that energy up so that when that kind of toxicity comes back towards us, or you might feel like you need to, that you're taking that back on a little bit, your body says, wait a minute, wait a minute, wait a minute. And it signals that to you in pain, with pain in your
With pain.
body,
Yep.
right? So you just ended up doing like this crazy amount of like shadow work, and that actually physically healed you.
Yes. And here's the thing I've discovered. Most of what we're creating, especially all that stuff you think is bad things that are happening in your life.
Mhm.
By most, I mean like 99%,
Yeah.
not like 60, like 99. It's through the avoidance of guilt or shame.
Wow, 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 whoa. Well, let's say that again for the kids in the back.
Okay.
Uh, say that again. 99%. Go ahead.
Of what you're creating in your life that you don't like
Yeah.
is to avoid feelings of guilt or shame.
Wow. Wow. Okay, go on.
Okay.
Continue.
So that's what it came down to. I did not want to feel guilty for not helping people, for not being
Mm.
responsible for them. Right. Some people develop back pain is a very common thing for people that hate their job but don't feel guilty about saying, I don't want to go to work. So let's just get some back pain. And now I can't go to work and I don't have to feel guilty because it's the pain. It's not me saying I don't want to go to work.
Oh my
Right.
gosh.
Not having money is often because you don't want to have guilt or shame. And people are like, what do you mean? Why would I have guilt or shame for money? But one of the questions I ask people, and it's almost always a yes. If you have a lot of money, what if people start saying, can I have some? Can you invest in my project? Can I borrow this? And they're all coming to you for that money. Are you going to be okay with that? or would you rather not have that? And if anyone has an emotional reaction when I talk about people coming up and asking for money, you don't want money.
Wow.
Right? That's it. As soon as you feel that emotional reaction, when you think about these people, oh, please, can I have some? Can I borrow? It's especially like family. You got to take care of the family first. Give us some money. If you react to that, you don't want money because you don't want to have those conversations. You don't want to go into those motions of guilt for not giving money to your family, or your fear of your family shaming you for not giving them the money. And that's where it comes from.
Or people in general. This is really that's an important concept, because for energy healers or spiritual spirit heart-based spirit whatever we're doing, right, transformers, light workers, whatever you want to call, oftentimes we're shamed into saying, oh, well, you can't charge, you can't this, you can't be abundant. And I know I hear this from people from time to time. That's why I can't believe that you're charging. And so we kind of internalize this, like feeling guilty about not making it, what we deem to be accessible. Like we feel like we should give everything away. And so you're saying that's actually why we don't have it, because we don't want to deal with that guilt and that shame.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Here's something that's really cool, because people that deal with energy and see all the energy that you're really going to get this, is that a lot of people, energy workers, but other people as well, are in the space of, well, I shouldn't get that money because some people are suffering and they deserve it more.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And so if you think of money as energy, which is all it is, and then it manifests into something solid or something digital, then the energy of money is out there and it's floating around. And so it's coming at you and you're like, no, someone more deserving needs that money. Okay. So you deflect it. Right? And it goes to someone, and let's say it even goes to someone that's in a worse spot than you, that you feel is more deserving. They've got their story that they don't deserve the money. That's why they don't have it. So they deflect it. And it keeps happening until some rich person says, oh, there's some money. I totally deserve the money. Right?
And they're like, yeah, come on in.
And that's energetically what's going on.
Wow. We're energetically playing hot potato with the money.
Yeah.
Wow. If y'all are not grasping onto this, I don't know what. Okay. So let's get into that a little bit as well, because I came from, well, I still am an ordained minister in the Christian church. So, and that's not just Christians. So I'm just gonna say, like, anyone that is kind of clergy or leadership in any of the organized religions or in spirituality in this esoteric realm, I find that when I'm working with them, and I had to clear this even from my own space, there's these kinds of vows of poverty.
Mm-hmm.
And or there is this feeling of, I cannot price things a certain way because I need to make it accessible monetarily so that everyone can partake in it. Mm-hmm. What do you say to that? Like, I need to make this so inexpensive that everybody can partake in whatever this program or this transformative reprogram really is.
Again, everyone's creating their own reality.
Yeah.
So people that are in places of poverty that want to unconsciously, not consciously, most people don't consciously want to be there,
right,
are in a place of poverty. You're trying to help them, but they don't want the money. Right? They don't want what you're going to offer them, because it's going to change who they are. Right. So you don't want to appeal to those people. You want to appeal to the people that are really willing to make the change. And people that are really willing to make the change will pay for that change, because they know the end benefit is going to be far better than the amount of money they've put out. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So that's who you're aiming at. And when you talk about Christianity, what amuses me with this whole thing is Jesus preached two things: mm-hmm. love and abundance. Mm-hmm. Right? That's what he preached. Uh-huh. Human nature hasn't changed. So let me ask you this. If you're talking to someone, he's preaching love and abundance, he doesn't have abundance, would you actually listen to him? Would you follow him?
Oh, no, absolutely not.
So Jesus had money. He was born with gold and frankincense, and he had money, right?
He went to the fish in the sea and got some money out of the fish.
They're talking the Bible about Judas stealing from the bag, which is a metaphor for their bank accounts. Yes. He was stealing for 3 years. Now, if they didn't have a lot of money, do you think they'd notice he was stealing over the 3-year period? Because if you have a little bit of money, you notice it's gone. Mm-hmm. But for him, how much money did that to have for him to just keep taking for 3 years? And no one caught it.
No one missed a beat.
Right. So this is the thing. Like, people pointed out, like, Jesus was like, he was humble. He didn't wear flashy clothes and stuff. He had the plain clothes, and he was always loving and caring and stuff. But that didn't mean he was poor.
Right.
And he kept talking to people about being in abundance.
Yes.
So if you're Christian, you want to be abundant.
Yes. Right. Yes. Sadhguru said, I will never forget this. I occasionally watch some of his YouTube videos, and he said something that has stuck with me for a long time, that we have to dispel this silly notion, and he did say silly, that you have to be poor to be pious. Mm-hmm. That stuck with me. I've never believed, well, I shouldn't say never, but, I believe that to be true. You do not have to be poor to be pious. And what I also believe is that we are doing people a greater service to provide them through our platforms that we have, that, hey, this is the help them to take accountability, right, mm-hmm. for their lives and change their reality so that they can then work with us. But like you just said, we don't have the responsibility to put ourselves in poverty in order to try to help somebody else get out. That's just, it's crazy to me to even think that way.
Yeah. And even if you look at it logically, are you more capable of helping people when you have lots of money or very little money? right?
Absolutely.
That's it. The more money you have, the more good you can do. And that's the thing. When you have more money, don't feel guilty for having it. I had a friend that was doing really well, but he was always about helping people. And he actually got his income up to over $1 million and then gave it away to help everyone. And then he was back to living in a 1-bedroom apartment because he gave away the resources he could use to keep helping people.
Wow.
Right?
Wow. Wow.
Right.
So let's talk about this creating your reality. And if you're someone that is like, okay, I want to change. Well, let me say this first of all. A lot of people don't want to take the accountability for their subconscious thoughts. And maybe that's where we need to, because the reality change happens first in your subconscious thought and not consciously, right? So, what is your, what's your take on that? Like, how do we begin to change that subconscious, or do you believe, like I do as well, that it's in the subconscious first before we get to the conscious?
What happens is you have an experience.
Mm-hmm.
You create a belief based on that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And then you start to create evidence to support the belief of that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And the creation of the evidence happens at a subconscious level, which actually deepens and anchors in that subconscious belief. So, for instance, say a little girl is sitting in a playground and a little boy comes up out of nowhere, hits her, and it laughs and runs away. Okay. Mm-hmm. And she's just like, what the hell just happened? Right. So now we don't know what happened. So it could be that he's attracted to her. Because little boys, when they're attracted to girls, they do something. And he comes up and smacks her. Now I've got her attention. That's what he's thinking. Right. It could be that they're playing tag and she just didn't notice. And he thought, let's get her in the game.
Yeah.
Right. It could be that some boys out there were just trying to dare him, go smack that girl.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So there's all these possibilities of what could happen. Right. But she takes it as, oh, boys don't like me. Okay. So now the experience was there. It could have been interpreted in all sorts of ways, but she creates the belief in that moment, boys don't like me.
Yeah.
So now what happens is, as she goes forward in life, whenever a boy doesn't treat her well, she logs that evidence. See, boys don't like me. If boys just are around her and not doing anything, that's just white noise. That doesn't count. It doesn't matter if like that they might be nice to her. It's just white noise. If someone's particularly good to her, what's he want? What's he up to? Because I know boys don't like me. Right?
Oh my God.
And so now this is it. This is how she's forming a world. She starts to date. She will be attracted to guys she knows aren't interested, and they'll get turned down because boys don't like me. Okay.
Wow.
She goes to work. She will choose jobs with bad male bosses because boys don't like me. She won't do this consciously, but then she'll keep looking, and there it is again. There it is again. There it is again. I have the proof, but she set up the proof along the way. She just didn't know she was doing it.
Wow. Wow. I don't think I've ever heard it explained that eloquently and succinctly. And like, that makes so much sense. And to me, this is like shadow work in from a different perspective and in a different way, because, a lot of us, when we learn certain modalities, we approach it in a, I'm very rather, I'm like, oh, let's do our inner child. And, not that it's invalid, because it definitely isn't, but it's just like, sometimes I feel like it can be a little unattainable or unreachable, or people like, what are you really talking about? But if you talk about it like that, it makes so much sense. And so that woman now that has made all these choices just because of, how she perceived and interpreted that occurrence on the playground.
1 second occurrence in her life.
Yes.
Right.
Then it had this ripple effect of creating this entire reality in every area of her life.
Yes.
Wow. So when you change that, okay, so for example, you said that you yourself, you went to India and you got this revelation of, from 8 years old, you felt the weight of you having to care for everybody. And there's a lot of us, including myself, that can say, yeah, you know what? Actually, at about 8, I've kind of figured out that I was the peacekeeper and all of that
Yeah.
in my family. Even to this day, my mother, please, Mama, if you listening to this, don't take no offense. But but to this day, sometimes, if things are going a little haywire, Mom will be like, "Can you reach out to your brothers?" And I'm the oldest of 4. I have 3 younger brothers. And just recently I've started saying, "No, that's not my position." Right? I need you to take your position. So I get that. So, but you came to this recognition, this realization, and then your body started to respond, but now you're still repairing that. Talk to me about that as we're changing our reality, the relationship between the quantum shift and then the physical manifestation that happens over time.
When they do experiments in quantum physics, the biggest thing that they do is light a particle or a wave. That's been a discussion for years, and now they finally decided it's both.
Both.
Right? But when is it a particle and when is it a wave? Like, that's still something that they were fiddling with. But one experiment was just so profound in that they had got this thing where they shine light through slits and it causes a scatter pattern, and based on the
double
pattern,
slit experiment. Yep.
So they said, okay, we've got this set up and it's always showing that it's a particle. But what if there are wave particles in there, but they're just not hitting the wall? What if they're just a little bit coming through? Can we figure out if that's going on? So they got a detector that detects waves.
Okay.
And they put it by one of the slits to see if there's any particles coming through that were waves. And as soon as they put the detector, it's not doing anything. All it's doing is observing. So it shouldn't affect the experiment in any way. As soon as they started looking for a wave, the particle changed to a wave pattern on the wall.
Wait. So you're saying, because we've always been only taught that first part where when you focus your attention to it, it becomes a particle. But if you're not looking at it, it's still a wave. So what you're saying, wow. So you're saying that when they were looking for it to be a wave, it was a wave.
Yes.
Holy moly.
Your expectations create your reality. Okay.
In the church, we'd say that'd preach. Your expectations create your reality. Yeah. My God, today. Go ahead.
And it's your expectation that's creating it, because you'll use expressions like, knew that would happen. Oh, there goes again. Oh, story of my life. Every time this happens, it's not the after effect. You were anticipating it, and then you got the result you wanted.
Wow.
And here's the thing is, now you're addicted, because when you are right, and people love to be right, your brain hits you with dopamine, and you create a dopamine addiction. And it doesn't matter that the situation could be horrible. My partners always cheat on me. You feel horrible when you find out your partner cheated on you, but in the back of your mind, I was right again. Get your dopamine hit. Create the addiction. Find another partner that you know is going to cheat on you so you can get that hit again.
So, in fact, creating what we call self-fulfilling, this is the basis of self-fulfilling prophecies.
Yep.
We prophesy over ourselves and create the reality before we ever even realize that we're doing it. And then when it comes out of our mouth, there's this concept in sales when I would teach people how to sell. And I would tell them, you need to remove the objections before it comes out of their mouth. Because the minute it comes out of your mouth and goes to your ears and gets into your brain, your body then says, yep, this is true. Whether or not it's true or not, doesn't matter. Once this connection happens, it's truth. So I would teach them to remove those objections, bring them up, because we know that's what they're thinking, before it can ever come out of their mouth, and they solidify it as true. So when we say, I knew that was going to happen anyway, or that's the way it is, that's the way my life just goes. Yep. We've now solidified that truth because we've spoken it into existence in our brain, and then our body continues, our aura, our energy continues to produce more of that because it feels good even though it doesn't.
Yes, exactly. So you've got a dopamine addiction. And you can have a dopamine addiction to good outcomes, and you do to certain good outcomes. A lot of people have the dopamine addiction to bad outcomes. They like unconsciously, they don't think, why don't I give up the bad outcome and get addicted to something that's good? They're just like, no, I don't want to lose this addiction. Right?
Wow. Wow. This is mind blowing. This is mind blowing. So wow. So then the elephant in the room is identifying those subconscious beliefs and belief systems. We very, very, easily call them limiting beliefs, but I feel like we've only scratched the surface of what a really limiting belief honestly is.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So, wow. Okay. I it's not often that I'm speechless, so you'll have to help me out here because I'm just processing all this all at the same time. So,
Okay.
if we have only scratched the surface of this limiting belief and not really gotten down to the root, how do we begin to identify those waves that we really didn't even know were energetic waves flowing through our system?
Well, especially if it's a recurring pattern or a limitation you can't get past, like I can't make that much money, or this person always does this to me, or people never listen to me, like recurring, or that's that block you can't get past. It's like the arthritis. That's the solution.
Yeah.
That's not the problem. So you have to start looking at it that way. Okay, why is this a solution? What am I getting out of it? And when you start to dig deep on that, you're going to find out what the actual problem is. Now, here's the cool thing about getting out of addiction is you don't have to do it physically. And people don't realize that. Okay. There was a study done, it's I think 1969 or something. It's very famous now, when they were looking at college basketball players. And this professor put them into 3 groups and tested them all for their free throw ability. And then he had one group practice free throws for an hour every day for a month.
Okay.
But one group sit in the classroom and imagine practicing free throws for an hour every day. And then he had a control group just sit in the classroom for an hour a day and just hang out.
Okay.
At the end of the month, the control groups, not surprisingly, showed no improvement. The group that had been practicing an hour every day showed a 24% improvement in their free throws.
Wow.
The group that had been sitting in the classroom imagining it showed a 23% improve. Right?
So it didn't matter.
It didn't matter. Your brain doesn't care if it's physically happening or you're imagining it. It thinks everything is real, and it will rewire your neurological system according to what you're thinking. And this is where the problem is. A minister, and I have to find out what his actual name is because this is a quote I use all the time. He said, praying is what most people do between prayers.
Ooh.
Right? And he said, so what happens is you go to church on Sunday and you pray 20 minutes, an hour, however long you're there, you're praying, this is what I want. I want to have the happiness, the great relationship. I want more money. I want a career I love. And you're putting that out. All right. That's the energy and it's going out. Then you leave church and you think, I don't have much money. I don't like my relationship. And those are all prayers too. You think they're complaints, but they're prayers. And those are going on all week. And you're wondering why that prayer on Sunday didn't do anything. Right? So all week you're that basketball player pretending, right? But you're missing every free throw. But if you start doing mental exercises where you're seeing the happiness, seeing the money, seeing your response to people and not getting triggered, in your brain, it's really happening. And if you do it more and more often, it will start to rewire to say, this is how I actually behave. And you can get out of habits without actually physically doing things. I recommend doing both, doing it physically, doing the changes, and mentally doing the changes. But most people don't do that. They stick to physical. And you can do the mental changes anywhere, anytime. It's your brain. Right? But what would most people just imagine? Oh, this person's going to screw me over again. Oh, tomorrow's going to be a horrible day at work. And they're already anticipating it before it happens. They're witnessing it, and then it shows up, and then they get to be right. They get the dopamine addiction, repeat the cycle, stay in the addiction.
All over again.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I would venture to say the mental has to happen before the physical. I know you can do both.
Yeah.
But for those that are listening, and we have a lot of folks listening that are getting ready to start their spiritual based business, or they're looking to step into this energy healing space, or whatever the case may be, whatever next step they're taking on their journey. You can send out 50 million resumes and they could be fabulously written and you're perfect for those roles, right? Mm-hmm. But if you don't believe it, and you honestly say, and you think in your mind, and I can attest to this, I never say anything that hasn't already happened to me. So I was in a space where I was without work. I had gotten downsized and my life had gone in the crapper, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But anyway, so I'm in this space where I'm in between, like I'm downsized from a very good paying job. And now I'm about back out on the job market and I'm in my late 40s at this point. And I sent out resume after resume after resume. And I can tell you honestly that I would walk into these interviews, and if that person that was interviewing me was younger than me, immediately my whole presence changed to saying, they're going to think that I want their job and they're not going to really want me because I am, I'm 48, quite accomplished, and probably have done way more than this person has done. They haven't been alive as long. So, you know what I'm saying? So I immediately had ascertained and said, yeah, no, they're not going to want to hire me. And none of them did.
What a shock.
Shocking. Now, what that did do is that got me into selling insurance independently. So, I mean, the outcome ended up being good, but it was really painful. Mm-hmm. So I did get that self-fulfilling, because my whole being changed. I immediately, defenses went up. I'm like, here's another 30-something. She's not going to want to hire me, or he's not going to want to. Immediately, I put that persona out there. I put that energy out there of they needed to be on the defense, and that's exactly what I got back.
It's funny. I have a similar story, but it's the complete opposite.
Okay.
So when I left my first job, they posted my job description, right, for the next person that they were hiring.
Sure.
And I read my job description. I'm like, I can't do half of those things. This is my job. And it hit me that they put out their ideal qualifications, and you only need to get at least not even half, because I couldn't do half of those things, and you can do the job. They're just putting, this is the perfect client. So when I applied for jobs, I wouldn't look, do I match this? I'm like, can I do about half of it? Yeah, I can do about half of that. I can learn the rest. And I'd always get the interviews. Just bring them in. Because that's where my reality was, right?
Yes. Isn't that interesting? Because my reality was shaped by my father always telling me growing up that I had to be twice as good to get half as much. So when I would look for positions, that I knew I was overqualified for. Knew full well, because I thought I had to be twice as good to get half as much.
That's what our parents do. And he was trying to help you. He was trying to protect you, to empower you, and it did the exact opposite.
Absolutely. He did as good as he thought he could do. He did as well as he could do with what he had and what he knew.
Yep.
Yeah. That's wow. This is wow. We could talk about this for. So tell us how you created, how did all of this then become energetic magic? How did that become that?
Once I figured out how things worked,
I
started studying different modalities. And I had to figure out, how do we change the beliefs? How do we create healing? How do we do all these things? And all the different modalities, they kind of worked. I know they work powerfully for other people, but for me, it was like, and then I said, this is too convoluted. There's too many steps. There's too much ritual. This isn't having the effect. And so I said, what if we strip it all out and just get down to just the basics, the bare bones?
Yeah.
And so what happens with energetic magic is, when I have a conversation with you, I can tell when your conscious beliefs match your unconscious beliefs.
Yeah.
So if you say, I want to make an extra $100,000 this year, I'd be like, no, you don't. Let's find out why you don't. And then we'll have a talk around that. And by following those beliefs, we'll get to whatever's going on. So I don't want people asking me for money, or I lost it all before and I'm afraid I'm going to feel like that if I lose it all again, or it has to go to someone more deserving. And once we get to that, I'll say, are you willing to destroy that belief? And it's key there, because I'm not doing it. I'm getting you to the point and you're making the decision, because it's your life that you need to change, not me.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say yes, it actually starts to rewire your brain in that moment. And people often feel the shift when that happens. It's very, very cool. The most common thing I see is tingling in the chest area. I don't know why the chest area for some reason, but I've seen people get hot, cold, yawn, burp, have little muscle twitches, get lightheaded. If it's a deep emotional belief, you may feel nausea. Usually about once or twice a year, we get to some deep thing with someone that they throw up. So I've had that happen in private sessions and classes. But then afterwards, they're like, oh, I feel so much better. because you held that down all your life. And all that's happening is this, the rewiring is going on, and you're letting go of all these things. But here's the thing. You've got to keep the rewiring going, because we've pulled you out of the addiction, right? But there's withdrawal. So unless you keep working on it, you'll just go back, right? I had a client, and his story was, something always goes wrong. Like, always, every day, something always goes wrong. And I'm like, that's a crazy story, right? And when we looked at the root of it, it was because then I get to fix it, and I get to show how powerful I am by fixing everything that goes wrong all the time, right?
That might have just hit me. Okay. That might have just hit bullseye. Okay, keep going.
All right. So I got him to step out of that story that something has to go wrong every day. And this was back before I realized we had to have that constant thing, because now that's why I've added it into all my programs. He calls me 3 weeks later, and he's like, I need to do another session with you. I'm like, what? And he goes, nothing went wrong. And I'm like, uh-huh. And I'm like, this is a bad thing. He goes, I know. Let me explain. Nothing went wrong. And for the first week, nothing's going wrong. This is amazing. This is great. And the second week, nothing's still going wrong. But now there's a little bit of anxiety. And then the third week, it's like, where is it? And that was the withdrawal. He was in full withdrawal. And when something finally went wrong, he felt good. Right? Like,
he's in full withdrawal. He's having the shakes. He can't handle it. Wow.
ah.
Wow.
So when you're working on these beliefs,
Yeah.
like physically, you're working on a cluster of neurons, and you need it to shrink and shrink and shrink so that it stops firing, and you get out of that belief, those habit patterns, everything it is. And you've got these things, because even something simple like, if you ever are rearranging your space, like for me, I know we put the salt shakers from one side over to the other. And then when I needed salt, I kept reaching to the wrong side, because that's what my neurons were set up. This is where you reach, and I had to rewire it, so now I'm reaching the other way. But this is what's happening: is the cluster has to be changed, and the neurons have to be firing in a different pattern. The way I look at it is, think of a Jenga tower. Now, when I work with you and we find a belief, we're pulling blocks out of the Jenga tower. And those blocks can actually cause your reactions or your physical reality to shift around you. And a lot of times people think, well, then I'm out of it. But no, we've just pulled a few blocks out. The tower hasn't crumbled yet. And if you don't keep pulling the blocks out until the tower crumbles, then those blocks will start to go back in when you're not working on it. And then you're back where you started, right? And I get a lot of people can relate to this. Have you ever been to a retreat, right? That was just amazing. And you came out of it, you felt, and this is it. This, my whole life is different. I feel great. Everything's going to change. And then a few months later, you're like, wait a sec, where'd it go?
Right. 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 Because it's just the beginning.
Because at the beginning, you've got to keep it going until you're fully out of it. And sometimes people pull that one piece in one session or a couple sessions during that retreat that their whole life changes. And that's the stories you get from the retreats. This person had this person has this. But most of the retreats, you don't hear that everyone had a change, because most people just pulled a few blocks out of the Jenga tower and it never fell.
Right.
Right. So that's why it's important. And it's not, and I'm not saying retreats are crap. I'm saying if you go to retreat, keep following up after the retreat to keep the changes going so that now you stay in the new space.
Yes. Yes. That is so important. That is so very important. That's amazing. That's amazing. And I love that you've simplified it. That's something else that I'm a big believer in, is demystifying the mysticism. Because, as much as like rituals are great because like they make us feel good, right? And then our physical body gets to be involved in the whole situation. But when we get too tied to that ritual, that's the physical is the only way we can do it, that it will not work unless I light the sage just this long and I've got the Palo Santo and I better have my white and my blue candle. Please don't leave me without that. You know what I'm saying? I've got to have these specific crystals all around me all the time. That's when we actually take away all the power. There's no power anymore, because now you're just depending upon things, and you're depending upon these physical motions to do an energetic work that you actually don't believe is going to get done.
Yeah. One of my best friends is a high priest of Wicca.
Okay.
And he would have students and teach them how to do Wicca and the rituals. And the rituals are very intricate, and go to this corner and this corner and this corner and bring in this goddess and bring in this. There's all this stuff. And there's an altar in the middle that's got all these things. And one of his final tests for the students is, I want you to go into the room. All the stuff is there. And I want you to set up the altar with only the bare minimum of what is needed to do a proper ritual, to shift the energy in a person or a situation or whatever it is. And the students would go in and they'd like, oh, maybe I need the goddess candle and the god candle, and I'll probably need this chalice. And they do this. And he's telling me about this. And I'm looking at him going, but everything you do is energy. Do you actually even need an altar? He goes, that's the correct answer.
Ding, 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 you passed. It's exactly right. It's exactly right. You don't need it. You don't need it. I think that was one of the beautiful things about coming from the non-denominational charismatic church, that I came, coming up through that belief system, if you will. I'm just going, why do y'all need all this stuff? What are y'all doing? No, we just do this. Like, it didn't make any sense to me. It made no sense that we had to say these long, elaborate prayers to do all this. I'm like, what are you doing? We're done. And how'd that happen? Well, because it's not in all of this, it's nice. The incense smells great. I love the candlelight. That's amazeballs. But you don't really need all this stuff. And we teach the same thing. It's so appropriate. Shiraz, this has been an amazing time together. Like, this has been absolutely magical. And I definitely know we are going to continue these conversations. In the meantime, in between time, you have some great ways people can connect with you and interact with you, and then find out more about energetic magic. Now, all these links, guys, are going to be in the show notes or on YouTube in the description, Facebook description, and Instagram. But can you tell the audience, how do we come into contact with energetic magic? How do we get involved?
The easiest way is to go to energeticmagic.com. The other thing we'll put in the show notes is I have workshops the second and fourth Mondays of the month, and they're free to attend. I teach a bunch of stuff, and at the end, I pick two people out of the attendees, and I shift reality for them in the moment. Right. So, and the nice thing is, when I work on one person, the whole group gets the effects of it.
Yes.
So that happens every single month. So you can get a taste of what I do. You can see how I work. You have to put up with my dad jokes. It's just what's going to happen. and I have to there's the thing. I've just created these workshops. They're not on the website now. They'll be on the website probably by the end of the weekend, which is probably going to be before the show drops. So they're up there. They're already
Yes,
there.
yes. We're speaking into the future.
Yes.
They'll be there. That's
And yeah, that's how to get started, just to see what's going on with me. But also, if you go to the Energetic Magic YouTube channel, there are over 400 videos of me working on people and them having shifts within 5 to 10 minutes. So you can just listening to the video can cause a shift in you. I have clients that start their day by just picking a random video that has a title close to what they need to deal with, get some clearings, and go through their day.
That's amazing. That is amazing. So, guys, definitely go. We'll have those links in the notes and in the description boxes. Please go and give him a subscribe, and then sign up to attend one of these workshops. This is listen, y'all. I'll be there. You'll see me. So you'll see me there. Amazing. Shiraz, thank you so very much. This has been enlightening and empowering and just shifting in reality. Would you like to leave us any final thoughts to the community?
Well, two actually. One is shortly after this drops, you're going to be on my show. So they need to come and watch us do this again.
Yes.
Right.
Amazing.
And the second one is something that most people don't get, and it's so important. Don't be afraid to be the happiest person in the room. Right? People are afraid, and they're like, well, if I'm so happy, people go, what drugs are you on? What's wrong with you? I'm like, you set the standard for how happy people can be. So you want to be beyond everyone else. And then that lets them come up to your level. So have fun, enjoy your life. Why else would you be here if not to enjoy your life?
That's right. That's right. That's so true. That is so true. Thank you so very much. Thank you. I honor the master in you. It's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. It was great being on. I look forward to you sharing your story with my audience.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, guys, that's going to be on when we were listening, I think on the 28th of February. So we'll be sure to get you guys that too. So you get to see us do this all over again. Well, gang, thank you for joining us. As always, peace, love, blessings, and joy be unto you today, tomorrow, and for all eternity. I love each of you guys so very much. Namaste. Bye, gang.